All right, let's dive into one of the most exciting and, frankly, most debated topics in AI right now, agentic swarms. We're talking about whole teams of AI agents, all working together to get really complex stuff done. The potential here is absolutely massive, but you know what? So are the risks.
You hear things like this, right? This kind of statement is floating all over the place, and it just perfectly sums up the hype. It makes it sound like a simple plug-and-play solution where AI just takes over. But thinking like that, it's not just a little optimistic, it's actually pretty dangerous.
And that's really the core idea we're going to unpack here. What if the biggest hurdle with these AI agents isn't about making them smarter, but about making our instructions for them crystal clear? It's a problem of governance, of rules, not just code.
And hey, this isn't just some abstract worry. You've got experts like the former CTO of SAP, Vishal Sikka, basically sounding the alarm. He's arguing that as of right now, AI agents are really only reliable enough for super simple, repetitive things, like archiving documents. For anything more complex than that, they are just not ready.
So where's the disconnect? It's right here. It's a translation problem. See, we humans, we run on principles, on nuance. I can tell you to act responsibly, and you get what I mean. But to a machine, that phrase isn't a clear step-by-step instruction it can actually follow.
This slide just nails the point. When we throw a vague command at an AI like act responsibly, it has no way of understanding the deep ethical weight we put behind those words. To the AI, it's just semantic noise. It's basically meaningless, unhelpful data that it has no idea what to do with. And this is the point we really have to get. When an AI system messes up, it's usually not a failure of its own intelligence. It's a failure of our instructions. The fault is in our own vagueness, our own inability to translate what we mean into a language that a machine can execute without any ambiguity. Okay, so how do we fix this mess? Well, the source material we're looking at proposes a really interesting solution, whole new kind of operating system, one built from the ground up for humans and AI to work together. It's a framework designed specifically to bridge that massive gap between our abstract ideas and the AI's need for cold, hard logic.
This new operating system is really broken down into two main parts. On one side, you have the ACP. That's the accountability and access control principles. The best way to think about this is like a constitution. It sets the big, high-level rules of the game. Then on the other side, you have the MCP, or the Model Context Protocol. And if the ACP is the constitution, the MCP is like the technical nervous system that actually carries out the orders.
Let's look a little closer at the ACP, the constitution part. Its job isn't to tell the AI how to do a technical task. No, its job is to define the relationship itself. Who's allowed to do what? What are the absolute hard limits of the AI's freedom to act? And, maybe most importantly, when does it have to stop what it's doing and kick a decision up to a human? Now for the MCP. So, if the ACP is the law, the MCP is the nervous system that actually enforces it. It provides what the source calls pre-chewed context, which is a great way of putting it. Basically, the AI isn't just guessing anymore. It creates reason-aware guardrails that translate our values, like don't cause a financial disaster, into hard and fast rules the AI can actually understand and follow. Okay, but I know what you might be thinking. A common argument here is that an AI can't ever be truly responsible because it doesn't have human emotions. It doesn't have empathy, it doesn't have fear. So how can it possibly make a good call about, say, firing someone if it can't feel the weight of that choice?
The answer is this idea called systemic correctness. The AI doesn't need to feel fear to know it should avoid a terrible outcome. We just have to define that outcome as a critical system failure. For example, we can explicitly program into the MCP that large budget errors will lead to people losing their jobs. The AI then just sees this as a hard system constraint, something to be avoided at all costs. It's pure logic. Emotion doesn't even enter into it.
And what this means is that setting up these rules is an incredibly serious job. This is not something a single developer just knocks out on a Tuesday afternoon. It needs to be treated like formal contract design. It requires something the source calls pair governance. You need a systems thinker who gets the tech, working side by side with a governance expert who understands the real-world consequences and risks. So this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? Let's make this real. We're going to walk through how you could bake these exact governance principles into a tool that most tech teams are already using every single day, Jira.
Believe it or not,
You can build this whole governance structure right inside a single Jira story. First, you define the agent's persona and what it's for. Second, you write its user story. Third, you set super clear criteria. Fourth, you explicitly list out the risks. And finally, and this is absolutely the most important part, you assign the final ultimate human responsibility.
Now here is the crucial mind shift. The user story is written from the agent's perspective. As a budget agent, I want to. Just that simple change forces you to define its goals and, just as importantly, its limits right from the get-go. This is where the rubber really meets the road. Using this given, when, then format, you create rules that are completely unambiguous. This isn't a suggestion. It's a hard-coded command. Given a specific type of risk, when the agent sees it, then it must escalate to a human, period. There is zero wiggle room for interpretation.
And this brings us to what is, without a doubt, the most important rule in this whole thing. At the end of the day, accountability cannot be automated. You cannot delegate it to a machine. Final, ultimate responsibility has to rest with a specific, named human being. That is completely non-negotiable.
So you can really boil this entire approach down into a short manifesto. Number 1, if it isn't explicitly written down, it simply doesn't exist for the AI. 2, the why behind a rule is more important than the rule itself. 3, autonomy is a privilege the AI earns through clarity, it's not the default setting. And 4, a human must be the final authority before any critical action is taken.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? An AI can be programmed to make the correct judgment, absolutely, but it can never, ever be held liable. That accountability, that is and must always be a human responsibility.
So the huge takeaway here is this. You have to shift your mindset. Stop thinking about AI governance in terms of these fuzzy, feel-good mission statements. Start treating it like a rigorous, formal contract design. It demands radical clarity, it demands technical consistency, and it demands unambiguous human responsibility.
And that really leaves us with one last question to think about. As you look at how AI is being used in your own world, in your own work, are you actually designing clear, enforceable contracts for your AI agents? Or are you just writing mission statements and kind of hoping for the best? Because the difference between those two things could be everything.